What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to basketball, and more importantly, welcome back to the spreadsheets for our season preview series. For those of you not familiar, this is the series where we're breaking down all 30 NBA teams before the start of the regular season. We got a lot of basketball sweats on here, so we're going in depth into each team, talking about goals for this season. We're going to talk about what their offseason looked like, how their roster's built going into this year, talking about assets, cap space, all of that. We'll go through rotations, lineup ideas, and finally we'll end with some standing predictions at the very end. And as always, we'll do some mock trades, things like that. Just having a great time. I'm really looking forward to getting into it. Again, this is episode 2. Episode 1 should be out on the channel already. Go give it a watch. But before we get into this one with the Dallas Mavericks, make sure that you guys like, subscribe, and comment. I've responded to every single comment to my YouTube channel up to this point, and I intend to keep on doing so. We're going to be doing this series for the next like 6-ish weeks. There's going to be videos uploaded every morning, so I'm looking forward to covering all of your guys' favorite teams and hearing what you guys have to say about them. So, basketball sweats, let's get into this. And that brings us back here to our season preview spreadsheet. Just for those of you that are new to the channel, I like to build these spreadsheets as a way to kind of articulate and visualize the story of whatever it is that I'm kind of talking about on the channel. I'm guessing that by the time that you guys are seeing this, I will have posted the link to this spreadsheet on my Discord. The Discord is free. It's in the link in the description. I think all Discords are free. I don't actually know if that's true or not, but you can go there. It'll be in like the announcements channel, so that you can go and download it from there, and I'm curious to see what you guys do with it. Have some fun with it, I suppose. I'll be updating it and stuff as we add more data to it and more data comes in. But anyway, let's talk about the Dallas Mavericks, because that's what we're here to talk about today. So let's start off with our little intro tab here. Background: the Dallas Mavericks season this last season. Ooh, do we want to talk about it? Do we actually want to? Coming off of a finals run in which you've got a young player by the name of, maybe you've heard of him, Luka Doncic, about to go kind of into his prime. Not really even truly in his prime years of basketball yet, maybe a little bit out of shape, so maybe he's not in his physical prime, but you guys know what I'm talking about. Fresh off of a finals run with him and Kyrie, you made some phenomenal trades the season before to kind of build up this really deep team that fits them really well. You're like, okay, sick. Luka is dealing with some injuries throughout the season or whatever, and then in the middle of the night, as I'm sitting there about to go to sleep, I get a Twitter update that says Luka Doncic has been traded to the Lakers for Anthony Davis. And I go, oh, Shams got hacked. Oh, and all of us go, oh, damn, Shams got hacked or whatever. This is crazy. And then it just didn't go away, and it became reality. And we realized that the Dallas Mavericks just gave away like a generational talent for no real reason outside of the fact that Nico just didn't want him anymore. He just didn't like him. He was like, Luka's fat, I have to trade him. Absolute insane move, right? We've covered that enough on the channel. We move on. The Dallas Mavericks fall in the play-in, and they get a chance at the lottery. And the basketball gods blessed them, because they were in for 15 years of probably hell for sure. But instead, they win the lottery and get Cooper Flag, another generational talent. So good for you, Dallas Mavericks fans. You don't all have to jump off a bridge. Those of you that already have, can't say I blame you. It just didn't look like it was going to be good. You had a 39-43 record this last year. You were contenders last year as well. I have these little different franchise statuses that I can pick from. I've got selling, which basically means you're trying to tear the team down. Rebuilding, I think you guys know what that means. You're trying to kind of put together like the base of a team. Growing, you've already kind of established that base, and you're trying to turn into contenders, and then who the fuck knows? I don't know what teams are going to fall into that, but I'm sure somebody will. So the Mavericks were contenders last year. They're going to try to be contenders again this year. They've got a really good roster, despite being the team that just had the number 1 overall pick. Cooper should be able to contribute quite a bit early on, but obviously we're going to be relying on a lot of other talent on this team as well. Let's talk about some goals. Some goals that we have for the season before we go and talk about everything else going on with this basketball team, right? Goal number one: support Cooper Flag. Right, this is the next like 20 years of your franchise. Hopefully, right here, this kid is incredibly talented. If you guys want to watch some videos on like the breakdown of like him that I did, I went and covered every single prospect, not every single prospect, all the main prospects before the draft or whatever. So you can go watch my like in-depth analysis on him if you would like. But support Cooper Flag. I also put as a little side note with this: don't trade any generational talents. I feel like that's a good goal going into this season. Let's just not trade any of those people. I didn't write that down last year. That's on me. Right hand up. You know what? Maybe I could have prevented this if I would have tried a little bit harder. Next thing, figure out the big slash forward rotation. Most teams in the NBA will struggle to kind of put those rotations together because there's just not many people to play those positions. In Dallas, you have a lot of people that can play these positions, and it's not a bad thing that you have this problem at all. We need to figure this out, right? Because we've got like basically two sets of starters on this team, then that's great. Maybe we do just want to play all of them, balance out the minutes pretty evenly, and just get all these guys out on the court. That's great. That's totally a fine thing to do. Or are you going to try to package some of these people and go get something else? I don't know. It depends on who becomes available maybe, but we just got to figure it out. And then the last thing, get Kyrie Irving back on time. So Kyrie Irving obviously got hurt at the end of this last season. He's going to be out for a good chunk of this year. Kyrie Irving was just saying recently, though, that he's like, hey, I'm feeling pretty good right now. Things are going well. I'm getting some workouts in and stuff. Not saying he's like doing contact or anything like that, obviously, but maybe he's ahead of schedule, which would be super cool, right? Because Kyrie Irving's going to be a really big engine on this team. But with all that being said, that's kind of talking about what last season is, and kind of talking about where we're trying to go this next year. We're still trying to be contenders. We got a great roster still. Let's talk about what happened during this off season. Alrighty, the off season. If you guys watched this series, I did it last year, and you'd probably be familiar with this this tab right here. Basically, I've got three different categories of things that happened during the off season. We've got drafted players right here. That's the NBA draft, if you couldn't figure it out. Then we have player departures, players that were on the full 15-man roster this last season that are no longer on the roster. We actually had an update just yesterday, so perfect timing. I'm recording this on Saturday. Just an FYI. I try to stay a couple days ahead on things, but we'll make update videos if anything else happens. And then we have players brought in, so guys that were not on the full roster this last season that have now been brought in. So let's start off with the draft. Obviously, Cooper Flag. We already talked about him a little bit. Let's just give a brief synopsis. You got this like 6'9", 6'10" wing that's not even like 19 years old yet. He skipped a grade towards the end, or more so graduated early, said he could go play at Duke. He was phenomenal at Duke. You just got to see him blossom the more and more he grew. He's already kind of been on a Team USA select team playing against the All-Stars in the NBA. This kid's awesome. He's got great instincts, a great motor. Defensively, I think he's going to be really good in the NBA day one. He just kind of seems to get rotations and know where to be. He's a good shot blocker, keeps people in front of him well, moves his feet great, good in anticipation skills. It's awesome, right? And then the offensive side of things, like obviously pretty good as well. We only got to see him a little bit in Summer League, but it's Summer League anyway. It doesn't matter. Really strong athlete, can put the ball on the floor a little bit. Not a ton of like creation skills at the NBA level quite yet, but there's a lot to like. As a guy that can just rip through and go and put it on your head. That's super exciting. The three-point shot got a lot better as the year went on at Duke. Honestly, at one point it was extremely good. And so it kind of averaged out to him being an average three-point shooter by the end of the season, right, in terms of percentage. But there's no reason to say that this guy can't become a three-level scorer, all-NBA type talent, maybe a league MVP at some point. That's how talented this kid is, and still this young. It's just not very often that we get to see talent come through like this. I don't need to hype up Cooper Flag anymore. You guys understand how good that this guy is. Player departures. Nothing of extreme importance here for what was a good basketball team for the most part last year. Obviously, missed the playoffs, but that was because they traded Luka, and then they brought in Anthony Davis, who was kind of hurt off and on. Kyrie Irving goes down. There was no shot of them really going anywhere anyway, right? That's just kind of what happened. Spencer Dinwiddie, he's gone, a reserve guard for them that is just a very capable NBA player right at this point in his career. At one point, much more productive in his career, but in the later years, just solid, right? Solid as a reserve guard. And then we have Oliver Maxence Prosper, which is kind of a shitty situation. Honestly, he was a first round pick back in 2023, I believe, so really not that long ago. And the Mavericks got themselves in this position where they wanted to bring back a guy by the name of Dante Exum, who was a little bit more important to their rotation. There just wasn't any roster space left, so they tried to find a way to trade Maxence Prosper, who we can just talk about him. He was an older rookie coming in, pretty solid defensively overall, not good enough to warrant being on the basketball court, mostly because of his offensive deficiencies. There's really no way for him to create outside of just cutting to the hoop, maybe catching an alley-oop and getting layups and stuff. There just wasn't much to his offensive game, and again, defensively not good enough to warrant the no offensive game, right? So they had to cut him. They had to release him, so they stretched and waived him. So they're going to pay about $1 million over the next couple seasons. It helps them duck one of the tax thresholds or whatever while being able to bring in Dante Exum. So it's just kind of what had to happen. You never like to cut people that early into their NBA career, but it happens sometimes. Somebody had to go, and you had a lot of people at his position. Then, players brought in. This was a big one. I told you Kyrie Irving was down for the year. They need a point guard that can hold the fort down while Kyrie's gone, and they bring in D'Angelo Russell, a guy that's more than capable, a longtime starter in the NBA, still a really good playmaker, an outside shooter, pick and roll maestro, like that's what he does. Ice in his veins. He is a pretty clutch player, kind of lives for those moments. Has his deficiencies at times goes very, very cold offensively in terms of scoring and production if he's not hitting those floaters and some step back threes. It is a little bit cold sometimes, and defensively never going to be anything all that interesting despite being a pretty big guard, but more than serviceable to be a starting point guard in the NBA, especially with the rest of the talent that's out here. Combine that with the fact that hopefully Kyrie Irving will be back and will still look like Kyrie Irving. Now you have a really, really good backup guard on the team. So phenomenal that they were able to bring him in. And you know what? Let's just acknowledge this, right? Nico, you didn't do a very good job with the Luka trade. You probably made the worst trade I've ever seen in the NBA. And shout out Dallas sports fans in general. I know that you guys have just been kind of suffering as of late because you had Luka, you traded Luka, and then you got Cooper Flagg, and you got Paige Beckers. Paige Beckers looks awesome. I've been watching a lot of her. She's cool. And now you just traded Micah Parsons too. For those of you that don't watch American football, Micah Parsons was basically a Luka Doncic of the NFL, I guess is the way to put it. I'm not a big football fan, but he was also like 26 years old and extremely dominant. And the Dallas Cowboys just didn't want to pay him, so they traded him to the Green Bay Packers. So I'm so sorry, Dallas fans. Hopefully you can enjoy Cooper Flagg or whatever. But yeah, no, there's a lot of really good talent on this team, and I'm really, really excited to kind of watch them play. But again, Nico, you do a pretty damn good job as a GM overall. You just made like the worst trade that I've ever seen. Like, so a lot of his other deals are awesome. They're really good. They're really smart. Like, they made a move for like Caleb Martin last year or whatever. Please don't trade Cooper. I don't think we have to say it, but please don't. Anyway, let's go do a more in-depth roster breakdown. What else is this team working with? Alrighty, we're back to this tab. If you guys have been watching my channel for any amount of time, you guys are probably pretty familiar with this tab. I use it with my ideal off-season series that we do, the most popular series on my channel. Only one doing that kind of stuff on YouTube. That's why we subscribe. Do it. YouTube's been telling me I need to say subscribe more during my videos. It feels salesy though. I don't know. I don't like doing that with the YouTube channel too much unless I'm being really ironic about it. But anyway, we also do it with like our off-season tracker and stuff. This is just a really good way to display a bunch of information kind of about a team right now in a more clean and organized way. So we have the current roster breakdown here with some numbers that we'll talk about. We've got a depth chart here that I'm sure no people in the comments will go, AVC, I can't believe you put Klay Thompson there over Max Christie. You're starting Cooper Flagg. What? I think we can't put PJ Washington on the bench. AVC, fuck you. Guess what, Billy? I don't give a shit. Go touch grass. That's what I have to say to you. You don't know ball. You don't know hoops. I'm just being real with you. But bringing the AVC squeaker voice out a little bit early in this one. But yeah, we got depth charts here. We're going to talk about salary cap space. We're going to talk about draft picks and assets, all that kind of stuff. But where I want to start off with is just a kind of complete roster roster breakdown right here. These numbers, if you're new to the channel, what are these numbers right here? These are EPM numbers. These stand for estimated plus minus. Estimated plus minus is a really, really advanced basketball statistic that basically tells you how good you are at offense, defense, and then just overall as a basketball player. I then take those numbers and like normalize them or index them so that I can get a 0 to 100 score comparing them against the rest of the NBA so that we can have these nice clean kind of overalls like you see in 2K almost. And because I'm the stats guy, I own a basketball statistics company, all of that, right? It's important for me to say no statistic is perfect and tells the entire story, but EPM is one of the better ones we have in terms of evaluating a bunch of different things. So we like to have these on here as it does help tell the story. So just know that, and those are the numbers you're looking at. Starting off at the top here, we're going from most expensive contract to least. We got Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis, despite being involved in one of the worst trades ever, and people being like, I can't believe they traded Luka. You did get an extremely good basketball player back in Anthony Davis. Yes, gets hurt a decent amount, not as much as he used to, but it feels like every other game he goes down for like a quarter. He gets like wheeled off the court and then he comes back. But when he plays, man, he is dominant on both ends of the court. Sometimes I think we forget how good he is offensively at times because he's so good defensively. It would be nice if the three-point shot could come back a little bit. It was pretty rough last year shooting for him, but it was a weird season. He was getting used to playing with like a new kind of regime in LA, and then he gets traded here out of nowhere. That's just weird. Hopefully a full offseason with the Mavericks helps you out. Then we got Kyrie Irving. Talked about him. He's going to be hurt for a little while. He did get an extension with the team that's actually like extremely friendly. If you even get like, if you could get 85% back of what Kyrie Irving was, that's a steal of a contract. Offensively, still one of the harder guys to keep in front of you in the NBA, and defensively, no schmuck, man. He was actually like doing a lot for his team ever since the kind of finals run and everything. He's been pretty locked in on that end of the court, which is cool. You guys might have forgotten, they brought in Klay Thompson this last year. I'm sure Klay Thompson didn't regret his choices of leaving the franchise that loved him so much to come here when Luka left, right? But they got Cooper now. This team's still a contender. Klay Thompson still a really nice offensive player in the NBA. He's going to run off his screens. He's going to hit his three-pointers. He's going to still get to the hoop at times. Defensively, not as great as what he once was, but more than serviceable. He's just not locked down like he used to be anymore. He's older, right? It's totally fine. He's an older guy. Daniel Gafford, who just got a new extension from this team, and a very team-friendly one, in my opinion, as well. The Dallas Mavericks like to play their little two-center thing, not at the same time, but where they kind of split the minutes between the two, because they have two pretty much unique, or not unique, but two very similar centers that are both really, really good young players that are pretty perfect for this team, and a lot of teams would kill to have these guys. Daniel Gafford, probably one of the best rim defenders we have in the NBA. Statistically, at times, he is the best rim defender. He's extremely efficient around the rim. Offensively, he's a run, jump, and dunk kind of guy. Plays with a ton of energy. Daniel Gafford, very, very good basketball player. Awesome center to have on this team. It's a real attitude shift whenever he can come in, and analytically, just one of the better players in the NBA. So crazy to say that he is the backup center on this team. But again, they tend to split minutes, him and Derek Lively. PJ Washington, kind of in a weird position this year. PJ Washington, one of those people that was saved from the Charlotte Hornets previous regime where players were just going to basically die the whole time, and maybe that's still the case, but we're hoping it's better for Charlotte. He gets over to Dallas. He finds this new role where he's an outside shooter and a guy that can put the ball on the floor a little bit. I want to see PJ Washington do a little bit more this next year, because last year, his offensive role wasn't quite as big as maybe I would want it to be. He's more than solid on that end of the basketball court. It's just I'd like to see him fall even more into a Draymond role, because he's got the defense down, or whatever. The perimeter defense is awesome, and we want to see him kind of get to be in that short role opportunity where he's playing and playmaking off of different actions. I think that would be a kind of cool area for him to grow. We are expecting an extension of him in the near future, kind of locking him up as well with this whole Derek Lively, Daniel Gafford, and him group. I guess you could throw Cooper Flagg and Anthony Davis into that as well. But as of recording this, there is no extension, so I guess we'll see. We already talked about Cooper Flagg. Obviously, Cooper Flagg has not played in the NBA yet, so there are no statistics for him. I'm not going to even try to project those because that would be silly of me to do. Caleb Martin, a guy that they traded Quentin Grimes, who we talked about in the last video, for. Caleb Martin, really good defensive player in the NBA, typically offensively kind of hit or miss. If he's hitting his threes, he's a pretty valuable basketball player overall, but it's been a little shaky for him as of late. The reason they made the trade made a lot of sense. They weren't going to be able to sign Quentin Grimes back, even though he was a pretty solid player for them. So they went and got someone that was on a longer term deal that has a decent amount of money on him, and they can use him to package with other people to go make a trade if they need to at some point this year, which we're probably going to do in this video at some point. So stay tuned. Najee Marshall, a pretty underrated player in the NBA, coming over from New Orleans this last season. A guy that's shown that he can play a little bit of defense. He can run some offense for you, can step out and hit a shot, play in transition, like just a solid wing player in the NBA. Started off the season really bad. Like it was not looking pretty. He looked kind of lost out there, and then it got really good for a while. So all his stats kind of averaged out, and he kind of just looks like an average NBA player, but he kind of figured it out at the back end of the season. So Najee Marshall going to be a valuable player for this basketball team. Max Christie also came over in the Luka Doncic deal after having what was not a breakout season, but like okay, yeah, Max Christie has figured it out, kind of like he's able to contribute at a solid level for the Lakers. He came to Dallas and they needed people that could play. He got the opportunity to play. All of a sudden, Max Christie's giving you 20 points every other night, it looked like, which was really cool. Defensively, capable is what I would say. There's moments where it looks good. He was able to create some shots for himself. The numbers overall didn't end up the greatest as more people kind of got back. He kind of got pushed down into the lineup, but we hope that this guy can be pretty serviceable for the group this year. Jaden Hardy, younger guard on the team with also a very tradable salary. Offensively, he kind of just comes in and gets buckets. That's what he does. He hasn't played in systems very well. Defensively, he's not going to do a whole bunch for you, but he can be a spark plug for you if you need him. I think it'll be hard for him to get on the court this year, but again, could be a really nice trade piece. Already talked about D'Angelo Russell. He has a player option after this season, just remember. And then Derek Lively, the other big man on this team. Again, statistical, just demigod for this team. Defensively, as a rookie, he was awesome. And then this last year, he was like, okay, you know what? Let me work on my offense. I don't need to just be a lob threat. And all of a sudden, he became a pretty solid playmaker, which was a really cool addition to his game that I just didn't really see coming. All of a sudden, he's the guy in the short roll that I imagine PJ Washington to be, where he's now running the 4-on-3 option, and he's making the right passes, but he's still able to be the lob threat and good defensive player. Derek Lively's awesome. He has a team option and everything. Those are obviously going to get accepted. Big part of this team going forward. Dwight Powell, veteran big man on the team, getting paid about $4 million, a guy that we could package into a bigger trade if needed as well. Not the highest level contributor at this point, but he'll get you some rebounds, and he's good around the rim because he's only going to take absolutely wide open shots under there at this point, but is what it is. Dante Exum, a guy that came into the NBA hoping to be one thing, fell out of the NBA, and then reinvented himself. No longer kind of the defensive clamps guy that you would maybe want him to be. He's not bad, in my opinion. He has a lot of good defensive moments, but now a pretty lethal outside shooter that can kind of play the 2 and 3 position. Maybe a bit undersized to be a wing at points, but pretty good outside shooter. Again, puts a lot of effort in on the defensive end. Not a bad guy to have in the back end of your rotation. And then Brandon Williams, kind of unknown NBA player, I feel like, to a lot of people, on a non-guaranteed contract. That is certainly going to get guaranteed, I'd have to imagine. And look at these numbers right here. Again, kind of a nobody, but when you watch this guy play, he is an offensive powerhouse, plays in transition well. He can create for himself in the half court. Assist numbers, like, honestly, not that bad either. So he gets into the game, he makes things happen offensively and defensively. For like a 6'1" kind of ish point guard, he's really disruptive. Like, gets his hands on a lot of things, moving all over the place. He's a guy trying to make a roster, right, is what it looks like. And man, did it show. I think this guy's going to have to be in the rotation this next year. And since that was the last guy, let's just talk about the rotation and kind of what I'm seeing here, because I think if you were to ask Mavericks fans, they might want Brandon Williams to start. here's something that you have to think about, like, strategy wise. Like, Brandon Williams, his role a little bit different than like a D'Angelo Russell on a team, right? D'Angelo's gonna like facilitate offense, keep everybody steady, things like that, right? When you've got other really good players on the court like Klay Thompson, Derek Lively, Anthony Davis, presumably Cooper Flagg, I think it's going to be more important that you just have some stableness, consistency, somebody that's kind of running the offense in a D'Angelo Russell. Versus when you go to the bench, while we said we have good players, we got Daniel Gafford, we got PJ Washington, Najee Marshall, Max Christie, maybe we're going to get out there, or Dante, or Caleb, whoever it may be. Now we need people that can like generate a little bit more offense and pick up the pace and go create for other people. That's where I want Brandon Williams to come in and contribute a little bit more. So this is kind of the lineup I'm envisioning. I know that there's some people that want Cooper Flagg to kind of come up. They're not going to bring Cooper Flagg off the bench. They're not. That's not going to happen. And I don't think that you should. I think he's that good of a player already. Just get him out on the court, let him play. And you're going to have guys like PJ Washington, Najee Marshall, Daniel Gafford off the bench. What we talked about earlier, the kind of big man rotation here of like Flagg, PJ, Najee, AD, Daniel Gafford, Derek Lively, like all these kind of different guys. There's just a lot of people that you can play at these positions. And so it'll be really, really interesting to see how they balance it. This team could go very big in a lot of games, which is an advantageous thing in basketball, believe it or not. All right, with that being said, let's talk about salary cap numbers. For those of you new to the channel, there's 4 levels to the NBA salary cap. Basically, the first one, the cap space line itself. Once you cross that, you can only re-sign your own players to anything more than a minimum contract. That's the most basic rule I can tell you with that. The luxury tax one, this is the one that more people care about. When you cross this, your team gets way more expensive. By the way, the Dallas Mavericks have crossed it. That's why this number is at 0, right? But yeah, once you cross this, your team just gets more and more expensive every consecutive year that you're in it. It gets even more and more and more expensive, which is why the Celtics had to tear their team down this offseason, because they literally just could not afford to like operate as a business at a certain point, which that's kind of a cool thing in my opinion. I think it kind of helps keeps the NBA a little bit more balanced. And then we have the aprons. These are 2 newer things that the NBA added. If you want to read kind of all the rules going on with them here, you can pause the video and kind of read them. But basically, the way you should understand it is the first apron is the NBA putting a little chokehold on you. Basically saying like, hey, like, you're getting pretty expensive, which means you're probably a pretty good team. We're not going to let you make certain moves anymore. You can't sign certain people. You can't use certain exceptions anymore. We're just starting to restrict you a little bit on what you're allowed to do for the sake of competitiveness. Because again, if you're this expensive, you're probably a good basketball team, unless you're the Phoenix Suns. Sorry, Phoenix. And then the second apron, that's when they choke you out, right? You cross this one, they're like, nope, you're stuck with this team. Unless you're going backwards and you're trying to go down and you're selling because you're not allowed to do this, you're not allowed to do that, you're not blah, 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 right? You're just kind of stuck with the team that you have. You better be very confident in your team if you're in the second apron, right? And this team is pretty good. They've avoided the second apron by about $3-ish million by my calculations. At least we could fact check that if we need to later, but there is a couple things to note here. There is about $3 million in dead cap here. I believe this was JaVale McGee, and this was Oliver Maxence Prosper, who we talked about earlier. Basically, this is money that is going against their cap for players that aren't on their team because they cut them and stretched them, which means that the money that they were guaranteed got stretched over multiple years. So the Mavericks did that so they could kind of avoid these aprons or whatever. Now that we've talked about salary cap space, which again, I think this team's in a really, really good spot. They have so many tradable contracts. Again, it's awesome. They've got their team set up really, really well. Draft pick wise, not bad, honestly. These are like kind of tradable draft assets, I should say. They could very well have more draft picks over the years. It's just this is kind of what they're working with right now. They do have their own first round pick going into next year or into this next season, which I think is awesome. That'll be a nice way to put a cheap player kind of at the end of the bench as you're getting more competitive. Your team gets more expensive, right? They do have some of their other picks that are a little bit more complicated or whatever that they can use. They got a couple second round picks at their disposal, and then a couple other like future picks that they could move if they really needed to, if the right player became available and we're really trying to contend. I wouldn't be mad at this team for doing it because they are just set up in a way to where they can make this happen. That is kind of the brilliance of a lot of what Nico Harrison has done, is he's got all these pretty valuable players on very tradable contracts that he can put together and go get another star player player if they really need to, and probably still have some pretty good depth on this team. So shout out the Mavericks, man. They're in a very good spot. I do want to explore potential moves or something like that, because again, we've got good players just kind of sitting on the end of the bench, and we'd like to maybe package them together to go get something. So I want to try to explore what that is. I don't know if it's another guard or something. I think we're pretty good at the center spot overall. Again, like we got a lot of bigs or whatever. Maybe we can go add another really competitive guard to this team. I don't know. I say we go explore that now. And that brings us back here to Fanspo. Fanspo, for those of you that don't know, is this really, really cool website where you can make like mock trades, mock drafts, like a bunch of other cool stuff. It's got a cool interface. I'm not sponsored or anything. I just like the website. And as much as I like the website, I do have to complain. Fanspo takes forever to update things. They don't have any of the rookies on here. A lot of the more up-to-date signings or whatever. It's just kind of like Oliver Maxson's Prosper like isn't on here anymore, so it looks like they updated that, but they still got like the rookies and other things. Like, come on, y'all, get on it. But I get it. This is a free website and everything, so that's why we're going to be using Spot Track to actually execute any trades. They've got a beta version on their website right now, so we might use this so that we can actually just look at things and visualize what's going on, and then we'll actually check the legitimacy of the trades here. But yeah, you guys are free to kind of mess around with all those things and see what's going on. So the way that things are set up right now is we are in the first apron, which means we can't take back more than 110% of a salary when it is sent back in a trade. So I want to just take a look at a couple tradable players on this team and figure out, like, okay, realistically, like, how much money could we take back in a deal? So, like, a Caleb Martin is a guy right here. So we're going to take him. I'm going to grab this money right here. And then who else might I want to grab? Like maybe a Max Christie's not completely necessary and people could find him valuable. Jaden Hardy is another one that people could find valuable. Dwight Powell I could mix with something. I think I want to keep maybe the rest of these depending on the player. Like I would throw a D'Angelo Russell into it, but let's just kind of see what it ends up being right now. So if I take a sum of all of these players right here, and let me make this money or whatever, and get rid of a couple decimal spots so we can read it, and then say this times 110, if I could think through this reasonably, 110%, we could go get about a $30 million player, or a $30 million player, but that would require trading 4 people for one. That's pretty hard to do in the NBA. But what I'm thinking is that we could get up to about $30 million in total. So maybe somebody in like the upper 20s or something like that. That's probably where we want to start to look. And this is how we're going to start to look for them. Basically, I've got all the kind of salary numbers pulled up right here via Basketball Reference, and I want to try to see if we can find a guy that could help us out a little bit. I'll start around like the $30-ish million range and kind of work my way backwards to see if there's something interesting. Like an Anthony Simons, it's quite a bit of money. It's a scoring guard. I know that there was probably some interest in maybe trading for him during the offseason. Didn't quite work out. I apologize that my team's messages are going off. I've got like business people messaging me about things. Don't worry about it. Devin Vassell, not quite good enough for us to warrant giving up our depth for. I would say we're not going for a Terry Rozier, John Collins. No, again, more of a guard. Trey Murphy would be really cool. I don't necessarily see him becoming available right now. Like a DeMar DeRozan, I don't know. DeMar DeRozan's still a good basketball player, but is he going to kind of kill the flow of the offense a little bit? Potentially. And again, he's played in good systems before, but he had the ball a lot more, and he's not going to get a chance to do that as much here. Marcus Smart, Vucevic, no. Looking for guards. Like a Norman Powell would have been kind of a cool one to go after, honestly. Jared Allen, Jakob Poeltl, Josh Hart, Colin Sexton. There's not really a point in Colin Sexton necessarily. I think I'd rather just have D'Lo. Honestly, Malik Monk. Interesting. Another scoring guard. Let's remember Malik Monk. I'm not mad at that kind of idea. Rui Hachimura, no, I don't necessarily need that. Andrew Nemhard, Kevin Herter, Keldon Johnson, no, 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 no. I'm not really seeing exactly what I want here. Max Strus isn't a bad idea. It's tough. If Denny became available for whatever reason, that'd be cool, even though we don't need him positionally. Herb Jones, maybe he becomes available and we just get another lockdown defensive like wing, because he could kind of play the 2 or the 3 position. Let me just remember Turbo Herbo. I know he gets injured and stuff, but I feel like the Pelicans might just give him up. You know what I'm saying? Josh Green, former member of this team, could maybe bring him back. I don't know. Kobe White. Kobe White would be an interesting one for this group. You'd have to extend him kind of after the season, though, wouldn't you? Isaiah Joe, I doubt they're moving him, but they'd maybe think about it. I don't know. I'm looking for like a higher level contributor on this team. So let's just say we did D'Angelo Russell as well. We're talking more so like $36-ish million. Now and again, that makes things a little bit more interesting, but I'm still kind of looking around this range, right? Like if I could bring in like a Drew Holiday, maybe. I'm not sure I want to commit that much money though to Drew Holiday at this point in his career. So I'm not so certain about that. CJ McCollum, that's not really who I'm wanting. $30 million doesn't get you what it used to, y'all, and that's kind of the point of why we're doing this. I figured it'd be tough to go and get like another star. I know they were trying to set themselves up if they want to get like Kevin Durant this offseason, and they probably could pull it off somehow. But it'd be complicated. I like the Malik Monk idea though. There's no reason that the Kings have to have him at this point. Dude can get you some buckets, right? Kind of that scorer off the bench type of vibe. We could use another one of those. We could. So let's explore how we can make this happen. Let's go over to our trade machine here. Dallas Mavericks, Sacramento Kings. How can we make this happen? The Kings kind of need to blow stuff up. So they're looking for young players, draft picks. Just looking at Malik Monk, he's got a couple years left in his contract, about 18-ish million. Send him over to Dallas. Who are we sending back? Because what is he? He's about $18-ish million. Do we give him... Let me just take a look. Caleb Martin has a couple years left on the contract. That's not as valuable to them. A Max Christie, who we probably wouldn't need at that point, could be an interesting player for them to kind of fuck around with. They could probably use another guard, so a Jaden Hardy wouldn't be the worst thing. Let's start with those two and see where we're at. In terms of this deal. So you send him back here, send Jaden Hardy over as well. Where is this deal at? So this trade currently falls short. Dallas is hard capped and over the first apron by $13-ish million still. Okay, so we need to cut about $5 million more. And again, like Dwight Powell, like obviously if he went over there, that still wouldn't quite be enough, right? We're going to let it load, but still no. So we need to do something else. Who else can we give them? We can give them a Caleb Martin. We're probably going to have to include some sort of draft pick, though, if we're doing this now, because now they're taking on quite a bit of stuff. Can we take somebody back from them? I know the trade is successful now, but is there someone we could take off their hands, like a Dario Saric? Again, not necessarily who we want to take back, but it is an expiring deal. Give him back to Dallas. Nope, we fall flat. Why is that? Is it that close? Is it really that close? Oh my goodness, it is that close. Okay, I can't take back Devin Carter from you. Is there someone else? I'm not really sure. It doesn't seem like there's anyone else that they necessarily need to get rid of. So maybe we have to get like a third team involved with this, which, like, look, that happens, right? That happens a lot nowadays. You need to get more teams involved. So that's when we call our old friends. Who do we want to call? There's a couple teams that you can call when you need to make deals like this. You can call the Bulls. You can call the Washington Wizards. They've done a lot of buying recently. The Brooklyn Nets are always the obvious ones. So let's go with Brooklyn and see what we can kind of make happen here. So what if instead, now as Dallas, we're doing a similar thing, because I like this Max Christie, Jaden Hardy thing to Sacramento, but instead Caleb Martin is going to go to Brooklyn, right? And we're giving up some solid basketball players, by the way, so trust me, we're going to be getting some things back. One of them's Malik Monk. Like, he's a very good basketball player. Don't get it twisted. So we got that. what are the Brooklyn Nets doing in this, right? What are they doing in this? They are taking on Caleb Martin. So they've got a wing player now that's a good defensive player, yada, yada, yada. They can probably flip him into something else. They're probably not mad about having it. They're probably going to ask for a draft pick from somebody. Do we have to give up a draft pick to be a part of this deal? Maybe. You can send that to Brooklyn if you want. There you go. What is Brooklyn giving up, though? I feel like they should have to give up, like, something to us, because I feel like they're just getting an asset. They're gonna stand in this negotiation and say, well, you just can't make it happen without us, right? So you got to pay us to take on this money, which again, they need to hit their floor, their salary floor anyway. So I'm not tripping about it. Can we take back like a Jalen Wilson or something? Like, we'll take back Jalen Wilson right now. So let me see this. This trade is incomplete. Brooklyn needs to receive something. Did I not do that? Sacramento needs to receive something to and from Brooklyn. I don't think that's how that works. I don't think it has to, right? The teams can just all kind of be involved. So the Sacramento Kings sent Malik Monk something. Let me just test something really quickly. So these can't get moved. Again, this isn't actually what's happening, but I'm just testing this. Again, this whole app is in beta right now, so it's not perfect. Why is this not working?
One eternity later.
There's like some sort of glitch going on where Malik Monk keeps getting pulled out of the trade, and I don't know why I can't like add him back to it. Why are the Kings being like locked down by this? If I like remove people from this, does it allow me to move other people? I don't know. Like, why is Dario Saric having this happen? Malik Monk, I would like him to go to Dallas, please. Thank you very much, I suppose. So then if I try to move Jalen Wilson over to Dallas, what happens here? So it's still not completely. This is why we like to use Fanspo when we can. Again, their app is in beta, so we're not tripping about it. Brooklyn needs to receive something from Sacramento. I'd sure like to send you something. So let's send him over to Brooklyn. See, why does it? Oh, Sac cannot reacquire. What? What does that mean? So remove that from it. I don't think that had anything to do with it, actually. So send him over to, Dallas. And then Dario Saric. I would like him to move. I'd like him to move to Brooklyn, but it's not going to let me. I don't know why it keeps doing that. If you guys know why, then feel free to let me know. I could probably execute this on Fanspo, though, couldn't I? Because it's not involving like any rookies or anything, and the numbers probably aren't completely accurate, but let's see if this is a legal trade. So let's get the Kings involved, and then let's get the Brooklyn Nets involved. So, what did this come out to be? Caleb, you're going over to the Nets. Max Christie, you're going over to the Kings because they're interested in you because you're young and showing a little bit of potential. Jaden Hardy, they could use another young guard to develop. There you go. You get to go over here and get some playing time. Dario Saric, you might move to the Nets. We're not so sure. Malik Monk, you're coming back here with us to Dallas, and if we need to bring somebody else with, we'll bring Jalen Wilson. Because why the hell not? We really don't care all that much. Make this happen. Yeah, I think that this will work because their salary cap situation makes sense. Their first apron, their second, perfect. Okay, so this trade in principle works. What picks need to be moved or whatever? Mavericks probably need a pick in this. Or not the Mavericks, the Kings probably need a pick in this because they gave up Malik Monk. I'm not even sure it's like a first round pick or anything. Maybe a protected one that turns like into a second or something. That's probably for the best. So do we have the Houston holds like swap rights in 2029? I could give up that pick. What's the rest of our picks look like? It's complicated, but I can give up this 2029 swap rights or whatever. It's not going to be that great of a pick. So guess what, Kings? You get this. I'd rather just have Malik Monk than whoever we're going to get in the back half of 2029 at this point. So there you go. You get this. The Nets can do something with Caleb Martin and flip him into something else. You guys just get a solid basketball player. So there you go. That's my idea for a trade in this one. I don't know. I think it's an interesting thing to explore to bring another scorer onto this team, especially until Kyrie Irving gets back. But anyway, let's move on to some rotational data. Alrighty, rotation time with a question mark. The reason I always put a question mark is because, look, I can only do so good of a job of assuming a rotation because I'm not with these guys in practice every single day. My time with coaching has just told me that. I've had freshmen join my teams where I'm like, I'm not so sure how I feel about this kid coming in. And then, like, after a couple weeks, like, I'm like, this kid's a starter. Like, that's how good he is. And that's a true story. Like, stuff like that has happened. That we signed a guy that I was like, yeah, he seems solid or whatever. Not sure we really needed a guy at that position. I would have liked to have gone and got someone else. And then a couple weeks into practice, man, it was like, this guy I think has to start. And he was a 4-year starter for us, 2 March Madness appearances or whatever. And man, he's still playing pro ball now. Great guy, by the way. Love that guy to death. But anyway, moving on, we're talking about rotations and what we think kind of could happen. We do have some EPM numbers here. Basically, these are minutes weighted, so we're taking all the EPM numbers that you saw over here and we're weighting them based off how many minutes people are playing. Something to note, because rookies don't have any data whatsoever. They're kind of just being counted as zeros here, and that's because rookies are unpredictable. The more rookies you play, the less confident I am in a lineup anyway, because again, they're just unpredictable, and it'd be weird of me to try to project anything onto them. So here's kind of what I'm thinking. D'Angelo Russell playing more so just like rotational player minutes, like strong rotational player minutes, because there's other guys that we can have with the basketball at points this year if we need to. Klay Thompson is just a little bit older. We don't want him playing quite that much. Cooper, got to get him on the court as much as possible early on. Anthony Davis, he's our best player. Need him out there a bunch. Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford splitting the center minutes. They're never going to play together, but just kind of split the difference, and PJ Washington is kind of in with that same rotation of just these 5 guys here. We're just kind of trying to have 2 or 3 of them on the court at all times because they are some of the better players on this team. Brandon Williams, we need him out on the court for a lot of offense, and you're going to see it's just a pretty balanced rotation. There's a lot of good players on this team, so we're trying to balance it out. Najee Marshall, Max Christie, the other guys I kind of want out here. Get a little bit of shooting, some extra ball handling with Najee, maybe playing a little bit of transition with him and Brandon. Could be some cool stuff. And we got some solid players that aren't getting any minutes. Kyrie's going to be back at some point. Someone's going to lose their time. Just what it is. It's a good problem to have, but it's our problem. Moving on to lineups here. These are just ideas for things that I kind of wanted to explore this year. 3 different lineups. The first one, which I have to imagine they're going to go to at some point, is a jumbo lineup where you have a really big point guard in D'Lo. Cooper Flagg, who, look, he can realistically play like a lot of different positions in the NBA because of his skill set, but I'm going to throw him somewhere here. PJ Washington can kind of play this forward spot. Again, be one extra ball handler, good outside shooter. AD and Daniel Gafford. Just because they're kind of our best, we'll call it rim protecting big men that we have. So that's kind of why they got thrown into this lineup, just ultimate rim protection. I've got this switching 2 through 5 lineup here, which I think is kind of cool. So you got the scoring punch of Brandon Williams right here, but you're going to see just by the defensive number here and compared to the other one that we have a ton of switchability in our 2 through 5, which I think is really cool. Like Najee Marshall, while he's maybe not an ideal person to guard a 2 or a center, we can slide between all these, and anytime you can get your defense into a switching situation, that's advantageous for you. And then we have a playmaking group, just a team where we can really get the ball moving, get some shot creation going on. Obviously, D'Lo is going to be a part of that. Klay Thompson never stops moving, and he just really keeps you kind of flowing in an offensive state. Again, Najee Marshall can handle the ball a little bit and be a secondary playmaker if needed. Cooper Flagg can do a bit of that, and we know Derek Lively has been a guy that, if you ever get into some icing or hedge situations, can just operate the rest of the offense, which is a pretty cool thing. So these are kind of the lineups that I was just curious about, and this is an idea for the rotation that I have right now. But I'm curious to hear what you guys think, obviously, in the comments down below, because I'm sure, again, somebody will be in the comments like, AVC, Dante Exum has been so good for the Dallas Mavericks. He needs to play more. Get him in the game, AVC. Fuck you. Why do you hate Australians? I don't want to talk about the second one. That's a personal issue for me. I love my Aussie friends. I actually have 2 like NBL clients that I love very, very much. But Just shut the fuck up, Billy. That's all I have to say to you. Let's get to the last part of the video, the standings prediction. Where do I think the Dallas Mavericks are going to finish? Alrighty, hopefully you guys understand how this works. I check a box, they're going to appear where I think they're going to finish this year in the regular season. Am I probably going to be wrong about it? Sure, but you know what? It's fun to make predictions and then watch you guys get mad about it in the comment section. So, drum roll, please, of me slapping my desk. Hopefully that's not too loud for you guys. I've got them at the 8th seed. I know we just talked this team up so much and I got them at 8. I know. Now, look, realistically, I could see a lot of different teams in the West kind of falling within a wide range of things here because the West is very, very good. A lot of very good basketball teams. I just think that there's going to be a lot of injuries amongst the, like, look, you just don't have Kyrie for a little bit, but injuries kind of amongst your best players. Like if Anthony Davis goes down for any extended period of time, it is just going to be very, very tough for this team to get moving. But I do think that they'll be good enough to kind of be one of the top 8 teams in the West still, just because they have so much depth. So when they're at full strength, they're going to be a really tough team to beat on any given night. And again, Cooper Flagg, who's probably going to be looked at as kind of the second best player on this team, he's just a rookie. He is just a rookie. So there's some stuff that we need to kind of grow into here, but I'm thinking by the back half of the season, we're going to have a lot of stuff figured out. But that's my thoughts. Curious to hear what you guys think. Obviously, we got a lot more teams to break down, so thank you for choosing me as your place to get ready for the basketball season, you sickos. But with all that being said, let's move on to the comments of the video. Alrighty, y'all. Comment to the video is coming from our 30 overreactions to the 2025 NBA offseason. It was a longer video, not doing that great in terms of views, but, you know, it's the dead point of the season. But I thought it'd be a cool way to kind of wrap things up before doing this season preview series, which, as a reminder, the series didn't do great last summer, but we're 3 times as big as we were before, so hopefully we've just got more people interested in it. I know it's the dead point of the year, but share, like, subscribe, do all those things, help it out so that we can see if we want to keep doing it the year after and the year after that, because that's what I'll use for data. But the comment to the video comes from Landel47 here. It said, thank you for calling the Raptors weird. That's so much better than boring or ordinary. This team has been put together on different principles than most NBA teams. Totally agree. Whether it will work or not, we have yet to see, but it will be interesting. And I really like this comment, right? Because it's not committing to a certain thing necessarily. It's just acknowledging, like, yeah, this team is very different than most NBA teams and kind of how you would go about constructing them. But that makes them interesting. And that's exactly kind of what I'm saying with why I'm curious to watch them this year, because there's just not many teams that are built like this. And while I have my skepticisms that they're probably not going to be that great this year, I'm very curious, just as the science person in me and my love of basketball, that I want to see what happens when you put together a team like this. So I think you have a good perspective with this, and thank you for the very good comment. And thanks to all the great conversations happening in the comment section. As always, if you want to be a part of the larger conversations, go join the Discord here. It's free. Link is in the video description. You can also download the link to the spreadsheet there, which I'm hoping I'll have up on Sunday. So hopefully it'll be there. But anyway, I appreciate it as always, y'all. Thank you very much, and I hope you're having a great week. Thanks so much. Bye.